Hi, it's me, Bill Patton with 720 Degree Coaching, and I'm going to show you how I form my doubles teams. And it's a system that I use that's partly numbers, but it's also partly an eyeball of, who seems to be a strong team and some of the conventional wisdom that goes behind finding good teams. So I'm also going to show you a situation where I would do a substitution with from singles to doubles, but I don't often do that. So I'm going to show you one very special reason why I did that, and another situation where I am just absolutely not. Read up at the top where it says doubles rotation of 7 or 10-point tiebreakers. And early in the season, I recommend that you use 7-point tiebreakers. A set tiebreaker, commonly known as a 12-point tiebreaker, but I call them 7-point tiebreakers because there's less confusion. And then, 10-point tiebreakers, we call them match tiebreakers. So most people know that those are 10 points. So when you start talking about a 12-point tiebreaker versus a 10-point tiebreaker, people get very confused. So that's one thing that will really help you is set tiebreakers go to 7, match tiebreakers go to 10. I think it's very clear. In fact, I'd like to see them change the name of that. All right, now, if you read the names in the left-hand column, you've got Abraham, Jesus, or Jesus if you like, Zeke, Salvador, Bob, Mike, Steve, Mark, Joey, Dale, Bill, and Kyle, right? So I put them already in an order that I already know my players, so I've already got the top groups sort of arranged in a way like that. But you could start a different way. You could have people just sort of emerge. I mean, I think it's a good idea when you're a new coach at a new school to just let everybody prove it and just mix the groups with different abilities and let people percolate to the top. All right, so let's look at the top group right there, and you'll see right out of the gate, Abraham played with Salvador, and they beat Zeke and Jesus 7-5. And then Abraham and Zeke beat Jesus and Salvador 7-3. And Abraham and Jesus beat Zeke and Salvador 7-1. Now, the first thing that I see there is I go, maybe Abraham and Jesus need to be a team because they were pretty dominant right there. But let's see how it all shakes out. So this is something that I look for are these dominant results that might create, a team that has pretty good chemistry. All right, so let's go down to the next group, and now you can see in this group that that nobody won all three, but Mark did the best. Now, when a tiebreaker goes beyond 7-5, so if it goes 8-6 or 10-8 or whatever, then I give credit to the team that extended it, but the most points I give are 7. So if they lose in an extended tiebreaker, then I'm going to give a 6. So I don't know the score of this one, but I gave the score of 7-6. So Bob and Mike won that tiebreaker 7-6 over Steve and Mark. Mike and Mark beat Bob and Steve 7-5. And then finally Bob and Mark beat Steve and Mike 7-4. No true dominant performances. That group was pretty even compared to the other group. All right, and then on down, as you can see here, if you look at Dale won all 3. And who's this guy? Bill, maybe not the strongest doubles player out of this group. So that makes me feel sad, but it's okay. I accept Bill, and I will work with him on his double skills. Now, if we go back up here, what we're going to see is that Abraham had 21 points. Jesus had 15. Zeke had 13. Salvador had 11. So Salvador is going to go down into the next group in the next round. So if you look over to the right one column, to the middle column, you'll see Salvador is now going to be placed in the next group, right? And then Mark, who scored 20 points in the second group, it goes up, and he takes that fourth place right there. So see, here's Salvador. Salvador had 11, so he goes there. And Mark had 20, so now he goes there. And they're going to play again. Let's pretend like we don't have the results yet. Now, so Mark went up, and then Steve did poorly, so he finished with the fewest points there, so he's going to go down into the next group. Dale did very well, and so he's going to go up into that group, and then we do the whole thing over again. So so from the top group, only one player goes down. From the middle group, one player goes up and one player goes down. And from the bottom group, only one player goes up. So, I mean, you can have as many groups as you want. And a lot of times I will have, say, up to 16 players doing this. It depends on how big your team is and how many people play doubles and all that good stuff. So now we go over here, and I'll spare all the details of the scores, right? But the one thing that you should note is that we went over here and we found that now all of a sudden Abraham and Mark were dominant over Jesus and Zeke. So that calls into question who's a better partner with Abraham. Is it Jesus or is it Mark? And so look at Mark. Mark came up from the second group and is really making a name for himself. So that's nice. So Zeke finished with 12. So he's going to go down. Salvador won them all. And he's going to go up. Right? Mike did the worst in the second group, and so he's going to go down. And Steve did well, and he goes back up. So you can already see Steve, went down to the group, then he dominated that group, and then he went back up. So you can kind of see a little bit of a bubble situation there. When you see these 7-1s and say 7-3 and 7-2, those are fairly dominant scores. The part of the beauty of this situation is that every point counts, because if you play a set, a 6-1 set could actually be very close, because every point could go to deuce, and it could really only be the difference of a few points here and there. So 3 points go differently in a 6-1 set can be won by the other team. So that's a really interesting dynamic to this, is the point play. Now, if I'm taking it a step further, and now I've got it down to where I've got 8 players vying for 6 spots, then I might just do 2 groups and have them play 10-point tiebreakers, and it's going to take longer. So this format where you play 3 7-point tiebreakers can take up to 30 minutes. And then when you do 10-point tiebreakers, it could be 30 to 45 minutes. But they need to. It's pretty easy for them to manage the rotation, because it's A and B plays C and D, and then A and B plays A and C plays B and D, followed by A and D and B and C. So it's not that hard for teenagers to keep that straight. They don't often get confused. Larger round robins get a lot more confusing. All right, so essentially what you're doing is you're allowing the cream to rise to the top here. So people will start to matriculate up, and if they go up and they stay up, and their scores get better and better, then you know that you've got a really solid doubles player. Another great benefit is they get the benefit of having. So Abraham here will have had some experience on court with Jesus, Zeke, Salvador, and maybe a few other interlopers, right? I mean, like Mark, right? So, or wait, the other guy, Zeke. See, Zeke found his way out of that. So you so then when you put them on the court, they're not going to be completely strangers from one another, just in case somebody's sick or you have an injury or an absence of some type. Then this is a great way to put four players together to practice 10-point tiebreakers with their main partner and then with two other players that they're familiar with. All right. So now another thing I will do is I will look at them and I'll say, all right, do we have any lefties in here? Because I want to have a lefty righty combination. Is one of, is Abraham fast? Is Abraham fast and Mark is slow? Is Mark more powerful and Abraham's more of a spin player or precision player? I like to have, even within the groups, even though the scores might say one thing, I might want to create a certain type of matchup where the players have complementary skills. So don't paint by the numbers necessarily, but this will give you a relative ability level and you'll see how they fight their way up into a higher group, and you see who's motivated, and you can see who has the concentration to win point by point. All right. So that brings us to the end of the doubles rotation that helps aid in selecting teams on your doubles roster. So now we're going to move over to a singles thing and see what we get done there. All right, now let's see. Right, now am I going to do a lineup switch here with this team, right? So I have Stefan, Evan, Courtney, Brandon, and Kyle. And again, it's an interesting story about Kyle because I gave him the opportunity to challenge for a higher spot on the singles ladder, and he passed on it. But I'm pretty sure I could put Kyle in at any position and he would do well. I mean, I could take Stefan and put Stefan in doubles, and Kyle could go to the top spot and do really well. He's just not practiced up for that. That's the problem. And he had to overcome some injuries the previous year. So before the season, I spoke with Kyle, and he said, "Oh, you know what? No, I really love playing doubles with Andrew." And I mean, these guys went like 42-3 over 2 seasons. So it was like, I put their names in there, and I feel like I've already got a W on the score sheet before we even start. So that's a really nice feeling. So I like having a number one doubles team that's just an absolute rock. So there they are. And Courtney here is a really good doubles player. And so I was entertaining the idea of possibly moving Courtney up. And there was a time Courtney played number 2, and we were thinking about moving everybody up one to bring Courtney into the singles, right? But kept thinking about it, and all of these guys can play. I mean, everybody here was ranked in the top 100 in NorCal, which is a pretty decent level of play. I mean, they're all 4.0 to 4.5 to, Stefan was playing pretty close to 6.0, and Evan was a pretty strong 5.0 level player as an adult. I mean, and his game even came down a little bit, but so, this team had so much depth that I trust every single one of them to play their position. And then disturbing that was probably going to be an issue. So, I never did a lineup switch with this group, even though, Courtney could move over. Courtney had played 2 before, but, as a result of that, though, we pulled a major upset where we won. Brandon pulled out a match at number 4, and we swept the doubles against the number 1 seeds. And then the next year, on the way to a section title, it was Evan that pulled out a big win at number 2, and we swept the doubles in the sectional championship. In fact, between the semifinals and the finals, we went 5-1 in doubles matches. That playoff season, we won 11 of the 12 doubles matches overall. So this team, by virtue of its already existing depth, we wouldn't gain anything extra by kicking someone down. To have Nishant coming out, that's not a good idea. Just to beef up the doubles up above, and then also change the partners. It just didn't make sense. So in general, I mean, I'm 95 to 99% of the time, I want to play my lineup. I want everybody to know their role. You're going to play on this court, and you're going to see that guy right next to you every time, and then you're going to see him on the other side of you, and there's that familiarity, that the ritual that goes into that really helps. So no lineup switch. On this one, we're not going to have a lineup switch when our depth is our best thing. And, I would also not do a lot of lineup switches with brand new teams that are needing to learn how to win at their position and do well right there. I mean, I think sometimes what people do is they do lineup in the blender and they move people around, and then nobody really knows who's the number 1 player. You have a little bit of a leadership vacuum. So number 1, I'm a big believer in number 1 player plays number 1. You'd be hard pressed to take him and put him in doubles where he's just one person among 2, and there could be a pretty significant drop off in level with his partner, because then you've negated that good player for the sake of allowing him to be on the court with a lesser player, and then the other team's just going to play every ball to the lesser player, and then you make your number 1 player mad. So you don't have a lot to gain from that. But I hope that this was helpful. If you can think of some scenarios that you would like me to cover, challenge matches. Oh, actually, let me give you one more thing here. All right. So let's say we have a thing where Courtney, who's a junior, and Brandon, who's a sophomore, they just keep beating each other back and forth, right? So they have a challenge match. Brandon beats Courtney. Courtney beats Brandon. Back and forth, back and forth. Well, okay. At some point, it has to stop. So I don't want Brandon and Courtney to be thinking about beating each other and then judging each other on how well they did at their position. At some point, I'm going to go, all right, Courtney, you're a junior, and you guys are so close. So you're playing 3. Brandon, you're playing 4. Brandon, you get the good experience of, you're going to have a better chance of winning more matches, get more confidence, and carry that into the future. And on this team, people have to kind of work their way up, and part of that is aging up and becoming more mature and, more physically, mentally mature to play a higher level on the team, and that's an appropriate thing to do. Now, let's say Courtney and Brandon and Kyle, right? You have this thing where Kyle beats Courtney, but Courtney beats Brandon, but Brandon beats Kyle. And this does happen. I mean, it's certain matchups, like one kid can't return the other kid's serve, or this kid outworks that kid, or this player can return that player's serve. That kind of thing. And then, because the serve keeps coming back, it puts a lot of pressure on them. So if you get that, then same thing. I mean, if it's a 3-way blender lineup thing, then I'll put an end to it based on what's going to be best for the team. But I'm going to start with upperclassmen getting the top spots first, and just explaining that this is how it goes, because because you're so close together. And and then when coaches question me on this, which it will come up sometimes, I'll just level with them and go, yeah, they just all sort of take turns beating each other. So I made sure that I gave my upperclassmen the nod on the position. So, but yeah, we're not going to have this thing where all of a sudden I purposely do a Kyle versus Cartney so that then I can switch the lineup for next time and throw everybody into a tizzy. I mean, it's not my way. I want to beat everybody fair and square and have it fun that way. So, all right, now let's look at a lineup, and I've got my singles lineup right here. So I've got things have shaken out, and I have 5 players, but here in Northern California, we play 4 singles and 3 doubles. But I have 5 viable singles players. So the interesting thing here is I've got Liz playing number 1, undisputed number 1 player. Stephanie, who has an asterisk next to her name, is not only a good singles player, can't quite beat Liz, but she's easily the best doubles player on the team. Great volleys, transitions forward very easily. She's a Division I talent because she can play singles and doubles very capably, right? Allison and Margaret and Teresa, they're all good, and there's not a big drop off in singles from Stephanie to Allison, right? So then over here we have Michelle and we have Teresa. So it's the same Teresa as over here. So Teresa normally plays in number 1 doubles with Michelle. Then we have Mahita and Julia. They stay together. Emily and Charlene, they're a team, rock solid, right? Now, the other team, the second place team in the league has a number 1 player who can match up with Liz. And it's a 50-50 proposition. So they can match up there. They could possibly beat Liz. And I know that the coach likes to take that potential of possibly beating Liz, and then he will load up his doubles to try to beat us in doubles. So he's thinking he's going to win at number 1. He'll take some of his singles players and load up the doubles to try to beat us that way. So normally my top 4 are going to be these 4, right? We're going to have Liz, Stephanie, Allison, and Margaret. But when we're going to go play that second place team, then Stephanie comes over here to play with Michelle, and that makes our number 1 doubles a lot stronger. And then, so she obviously goes out of there, and then we're going to take these 3 and we're going to move them up. All right. So that makes our number 1 doubles way better. And we're not really having a big drop off. And generally we know we're going to win those 3 singles. But what we just assured by putting Stephanie in the doubles was that we've got one of the very best doubles players in the league. And they're going to have a really hard time sweeping us in doubles. So then not only that, but an important thing here is that this was not a surprise to Stephanie. I didn't tell her before the match, oh, by the way, I'm sticking you in doubles today. I went to her at the beginning of the season. I said, hey, you're a really good doubles player, and I'm going to get you some practice time with Michelle here and there, so that you're going to be ready for this. And then there's a chance that I might put you in doubles for specific matchups. And what ended up happening, not only did we beat the second place team pretty convincingly, but this became our playoff matchup because these 3 singles players became so reliable and there wasn't much drop off that it freed us up to bring Stephanie over here and play doubles, and we pulled some big upsets. And the following year, this team won the section, even after my departure, which, that was still fun. I had a lot of fun knowing that they did that. So anyway, so here's Stephanie over here, Division One talent on the singles, and glad we put her in there. So this substitution happened during the season a grand total of 4 times. And I really think long and hard about these things because I don't like to take players out of a certain role and put them in a different role because that creates a certain, it could be a level of expectation that the kid can't handle just yet. It could be pressure. It could be, just the unfamiliarity. But, I went to Michelle and Stephanie at the beginning of the season and let them know I was going to practice them up, and they might be ready to do this, maybe not, but so it's not. I'm not springing it on them and then saying, oh yeah, you have to win this. So that's a pretty tough thing to do. But anyway, be very cautious making substitutions. But this was a good one because we're not really hurting ourselves by